I stood at the bottom of the stairwell for a long time. The elevator had been broken since before I was admitted, and I used to complain about the 5 flights. Now I couldn't imagine climbing them, not with the fresh stitches in my side and the dull weight of antibiotics settling behind my eyes. But that wasn't why I hesitated. My hand was on the cold railing, trembling. Not from the fever, but from something quieter. Something hollow. It was the way the apartment lights didn't feel like they were mine anymore. The windows above me were lit. Someone was cooking. I hadn't told anyone I was discharged early. After 3 weeks in the hospital, I was supposed to go to a short-term rehab center. But they needed the bed, and I said I'd be fine. I lied. I'd imagined returning to a quiet space. My books, my blankets, the chamomile mug with the chipped lip that I never threw away. I missed my own smell, like laundry and tea, and sometimes the sharpness of lavender oil I used for migraines. I missed knowing where the spoons went. I missed my old life. But as I climbed, every step took me further from what I'd imagined. When I reached the top floor, the hallway was still the same. The weak flickering bulb near 5B, the peeling corner of the wallpaper near the fire alarm. My door, Unit 5A, had a new welcome mat. It said, "Home is where love lives. I never bought that mat." I stared at it. My key was clenched in my hand so hard I didn't realize I'd cut my palm until I felt something wet. I unlocked the door. Or I tried. The key wouldn't turn. At first I thought my hand was just weak. I twisted harder, leaned into the metal, jiggled it the way I always had to. But nothing. My key no longer worked. I stepped back. The sound of laughter floated from inside. High-pitched, feminine. I heard music, soft jazz, something light. Something that didn't belong to me. I knocked. Footsteps. A pause. Then the lock clicked, and the door opened, just a few inches. My sister stood there, holding a glass of wine, wearing one of my old sweatshirts. The purple one I thought I lost in the laundry room months ago. She blinked at me. "Oh, you're back already." Already. Like I'd left for vacation. Like I hadn't been in the ICU for 8 days. Like she hadn't visited even once. I didn't say anything. She opened the door wider, stepping aside. "Well, I thought, Mom said they'd be transferring you to rehab today. That's what she told me." I walked inside, and it wasn't my apartment anymore. The curtains were different. Pink. My navy ones were gone. The walls had new art. There were candle holders, gold, throw pillows. My books were missing from the shelves, replaced with skincare, products, and some romantic comedy DVDs. In the corner, her fiancé was making spaghetti. He turned, surprised. "Hey, wow. You're, looking good. You okay to be out already?" I looked at the couch. My couch. Where I used to fall asleep, with a heating pad on my stomach and a cat curled beside me. Except the cat was gone now, too. "Where's Milo?" I asked, my voice like sand. She hesitated. "Oh, he wasn't adjusting, you know? And with my allergies, it wasn't working out." "So you gave him away?" I whispered. She turned away, brushing past me. "Look, we didn't know when you were coming back. And you weren't using the place. We figured it was better than letting it sit empty. Letting it sit empty. Like I was some ghost." A breath caught in my throat. My body ached, my spine pulling tight against the hospital bandages. I looked toward the bedroom door. It was half closed. I pushed it open. All my things were gone. My bed was replaced with some queen-sized frame and a blush pink comforter. There were boxes of her shoes, perfume, a wedding vision board taped to the closet door, and in the corner, on top of a cardboard box marked Donate, was a framed photo of me and Milo, face down. I turned it over, slowly. The glass had cracked. Stood there for a long time, staring at the cracked photo frame. The crack cut right through my face. I don't know how long I stood there, but when I turned around, she was in the doorway with her arms folded like I had just invaded her space. "You're mad," she said. I didn't respond. She stepped further into the room, not bothering to lower her voice. "You're always so dramatic. It's not like we sold your stuff or anything. We boxed it. It's at Mom's." "Did you ask me?" I said. And it came out quieter than I meant it to. Her eyes flicked to the side. "You weren't well. You couldn't make decisions. So you made them for me," I murmured, brushing my fingers across the edge of the comforter. My old mattress was probably in the hallway or on Craigslist. "I needed a place," she snapped. "You were gone. They weren't going to renew our lease again, and honestly, you're lucky. You didn't have to deal with anything. You got to rest. I had to figure everything out." She said it like she'd suffered, like she had been the one with tubes in her arms. The memory of my hospital window came rushing back, the one where I used to sit and count the buses just to pass time, just to feel like the world was still turning. I used to imagine this apartment waiting for me, just the way I left it. A place that missed me, a place that knew me. But it wasn't mine anymore, not really. "You could have texted me," I said finally. "Or called, or asked." She blinked at me. "You're overreacting." And there it was. The sentence that always made me question myself. The tone, sharp but practiced. I'd heard it for years. When she wore my favorite dress and spilled wine on it. When she told our cousins I was too sensitive for jokes. When she forgot my birthday and posted about her dog's adoption anniversary the same day. Overreacting. I moved past her into the kitchen, where her fiancé was plating pasta for two. He looked at me awkwardly, then glanced at her. "Should I make another plate?" "No," I said. "I'm not staying." He nodded like he was relieved. I opened the fridge. All of my labeled containers were gone. So was my oat milk, my butter dish, even the jar of raspberry jam I kept in the back corner, like a secret. I didn't recognize any of it. This wasn't my kitchen. I wasn't even a guest. I was an intruder. "You should have asked," I said again, softer this time. I was speaking more to the air than to her. "We thought we were helping," she insisted, setting her glass down. Too hard. "Mom said you'd be grateful someone was checking in on the place." The place. Not my apartment, not my home. Just a place. Like a parking space they were subletting. I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because I was too tired to argue. My body was starting to fold in on itself. My stitches tugged with every breath. The heat from the kitchen made me dizzy. I needed to sit. I needed to sleep. But I wouldn't do it here. Not like this. I walked to the door. My hand brushed the chipped edge of the key still hanging from my lanyard, the one they'd replaced without telling me. And then I said it. "I'll be back tomorrow." I'm taking my things. Her expression faltered. You're moving out? I didn't know I had, I said. She didn't follow me as I left. I slept at a motel that night. One of those quiet places near the highway with curtains that don't close all the way, and a bed that smells like bleach. I didn't cry. I just stared at the ceiling, hand on my bandaged ribs, and thought about how quiet betrayal can be, how it doesn't always come with slamming doors or shouted names. Sometimes it just comes with a key that no longer fits. The next morning, I walked slower than I ever had in my life. Each step up to Mom's porch felt like I was dragging the weight of what I didn't want to find. Not just things, boxes, clothes, what was mine, but the confirmation that somewhere, someone had decided I didn't matter enough to tell the truth to. She opened the door like she'd been waiting. "Oh, good. You're here," she said, as if I had RSVP'd to brunch. I stood on the doormat, too tired to argue. Her house still smelled like lemon cleaner and Sunday guilt. "I've packed everything up," she said over her shoulder as she walked back into the living room. "It's all in the garage, just for now, until you get back on your feet." Back on my feet, as if I'd fallen off of them voluntarily. As if I hadn't called her from the hospital twice, begging for someone to come sit with me while they told me the biopsy results. She didn't show up either time. "I was busy helping your sister move," she had texted once. No apology. Just that. I followed her through the house like a shadow. The garage door groaned open, and I was met with rows of cardboard boxes. Some were half open, others crushed on one side like they'd been tossed. A few were labeled with black marker. One read, "Misk, her stuff. Not even my name, just her." I crouched next to it, dragging it forward. The tape peeled too, easily, like it had already been opened and closed again, over and over. Inside were pieces of me, disassembled. The old photo strip from the summer fair where I had braces and a lemonade stain on my shirt, my college sweatshirt, the broken spine of the novel I used to fall asleep with. A card that just said "Get well soon" in Mom's handwriting, unsigned, unsent. Everything smelled faintly like mildew, or maybe like neglect. Behind me, Mom was fussing with something on the shelf. "I hope you're not upset," she said, without turning around. "You know how she is, your sister. She just needed somewhere safe. And I knew you'd understand." That word again. Understand. The same word people use when they expect silence. I didn't answer. I was staring at another box, smaller than the rest. It was sealed tightly, but the side was ripped. My name was on this one. Only it had been crossed. Out, sharp, thick black lines, like someone was trying to erase me. I reached for it. Inside were my journals. Some had broken bindings, pages stuck together from damp. I found the one I kept after my first surgery, the one where I wrote letters to myself every night so I wouldn't disappear into the white noise of machines and charts and pity. On the last page, in handwriting that wasn't mine, was a note. "You don't need this anymore. Let it go." I stared at it. The breath caught in my throat. It was her writing, my sister's. I stood up slowly. "Did you read my journals?" Mom turned like I had slapped her. "Of course not. I don't have time to read your feelings, sweetheart." It was the way she said your feelings that broke me open a little, like they were indulgent, like they were a luxury I'd never earned. I didn't speak again, not to her. I packed the boxes into a rideshare one by one while she scrolled on her phone, pausing only to say, "Just don't cause a rift, okay? She's under enough stress with the wedding. The wedding. I'd forgotten. My sister was getting married in 2 months. The same sister who wore my sweatshirt and slept in my bed and told me to let go of my own memories. Mom's face softened as I shut the car door. You are still coming, right? I looked at her for a long time. And then I said what I hadn't allowed myself to believe until that moment. No, I'm not. And I didn't wait for her response. That night, I moved into a studio I found online, in a panic. It was small, with water stains on the ceiling and a heater that rattled like an old man coughing in winter. But it was mine, and no one had the key but me. I lit one of the old candles they forgot to throw out. Lavender. Cracked wick. I placed it by the window and watched the city blur behind the glass. Somewhere out there, she was planning a wedding in the bed I once dreamed in, and I was relearning how to take up space, quietly, slowly, and without permission. I kept the wedding. Invitation in a drawer. I didn't open often. Cream envelope. Rose gold script. The kind of stationery you frame if it means something. I never opened it. I didn't need to. I already knew where it would be. What time. The dress code. The table. Arrangements. Because I had helped plan it. Before the hospital. Before the biopsy. Before I became the empty chair in every room. I still remembered the night we stayed up late looking at Pinterest boards. She had curled up on my couch, and cried because the first venue fell through. I made us popcorn and poured wine and promised we'd figure it out. She said I was the only one who ever made her feel safe. I believed her. Now, her name was stamped in foil beside his, and mine was just scribbled in the return address label. No note. No, we missed you. Just an envelope dropped at Mom's like a receipt. The studio apartment was starting to feel like mine, even with its bruised corners and paper-thin walls. Even with the neighbor who played the same 3 jazz records every weekend, like it was therapy. Even with the broken knob on the stove I had to twist with pliers. It was the first time I wasn't living around someone else. No one moved my things. No one borrowed my clothes without asking. No one guilted me into silence when I noticed. I started buying back my life in pieces. A secondhand bookshelf. A blanket in the same navy as my old curtains. A used copy of the novel my sister donated. This, one without my notes in the margins, but the words still whispered the same. Then, one afternoon, I got a text from Mom. She wants you to do a speech at the wedding. Says it would mean a lot. No, hi. No, how's your recovery? Just a request, dropped like a coin in a vending machine. I didn't reply. 2 days later, another message. She's stressed. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. As if I was the one who made it hard. As if my absence would ruin the picture. I sat at the kitchen counter, phone in hand, while the kettle whined behind me. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just stared at the screen and thought about how often they asked me to shrink, and how quietly I had complied. A week later, my sister emailed me a draft of her wedding schedule. I hadn't asked for it, but she sent it anyway, like a reminder. She listed me under maid of honor. I wasn't even going. There was a note beside my name. Will probably come around. That was the moment I opened the invitation. I slid my finger beneath the sealed flap like I was peeling back a layer of skin. Inside, a smiling photo of them on the beach. Save the date details. A line that read, "We are grateful for those who stood by us through everything." Everything. I stared at that word for a long time. Everything. That night, I made tea and sat by the window. I lit the lavender candle again. The wax was nearly gone. I liked how it flickered, small and tired, but still burning. I took the RSVP card and flipped it over. On the back, I wrote, "Some of us never left. You just stopped looking." I didn't send it. I tucked it into the same drawer as the hospital bracelets and the cracked photo of me and Milo. Let it sit there. Let it be quiet and untouched like me. It was a Saturday when she finally showed up. The knock was soft but urgent. The kind that says I want to seem gentle, but I'm here to be let in. I was sitting on the floor in leggings and a hoodie, surrounded by mismatched books and half-folded laundry. The window was open just enough to let in the early autumn chill. I liked the way the wind stirred the page corners. It reminded me that time was still moving. I didn't get up right away. Letting people in used to be instinct. Now it felt like a decision. The knock came again. I opened the door. There she stood, framed in the hallway light, my sister, in a beige sweater and messy bun, holding a white bakery box like a peace offering. She smiled too quickly. "Thought you might want cinnamon rolls. From Marlowe's. Your favorite." She hadn't said my name. I let the silence stretch. Let her feel it for once. I just wanted to talk," she added, stepping closer. "Please?" I moved aside, wordless. She took it as a yes. She sat stiffly at the edge of the counter stool, eyes flicking around the space like it was a test she hadn't studied for. "I didn't know it was this small," she said, and then immediately added, "Not in a bad way." I watched her pick at the bakery box label. "This is all you?" she asked, nodding at the furniture, the lamp, the pile of secondhand dishes drying by the sink. "Yes." She looked down. "Mom said you were still mad," she murmured. "I'm not mad," I said simply. She looked confused. "So, what are you?" I didn't answer. I just poured the tea I had already steeped for myself. I didn't offer her any. She didn't ask. After a while, she said, "I didn't mean for things to get weird. I thought you'd understand." There it was again. That word. Understand. As if that had ever been my role. Translator of everyone else's damage. You lived in my apartment while I was recovering from surgery, I said slowly. You changed the locks. You donated my cat. She flinched at that. Milo wasn't happy. He was mine. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said it like a fact she'd been dodging. "I thought you'd come back," she said weakly. "But then everything got so busy. And I didn't know how to undo it." "So you didn't." She didn't argue. Just sat there, like a kid who realized the test was over and she hadn't written anything down. "I didn't want to lose you," she said finally. "You did," I said. "You just didn't notice." She left an hour later. She took the cinnamon rolls with her. Said she thought I didn't want them. Maybe I didn't. As the door closed, I stood in the quiet and watched the steam rise from my mug. It was lavender tea. The kind I used to drink when I couldn't sleep at the hospital. The kind no one brought when they visited. Because no one visited. Not her. Not Mom. Not anyone. And still, I didn't hate them. But I didn't belong to them either. That night, I opened a new journal. Clean pages. Crisp spine. No cracks. At the top of the first page, I wrote, "Day 1. This time, no one erases me." A week passed before anyone else reached out. It came in the form of a notification. Mom added you to a new Grupo Wedding final countdown. I stared at it like it was a foreign language. There were 5 people in the group. My sister, her fiancé, Mom, Aunt Jenna, me. The first message was a glittery gif of champagne. Then, final RSVP deadline tomorrow. Can everyone confirm if they're coming to the rehearsal dinner? Dress fittings Monday. Be there. Or else, I hadn't said yes to anything. I hadn't replied to anything. But they added me like I had. Like silence was a yes. Like surviving was consent. I didn't open the chat again. I muted it. A few days later, Mom called. I let it ring. She left a voicemail, upbeat but brittle. "Hi, honey. Just wondering if you saw the messages? Your dress is almost ready. It's blush, like we talked about. So flattering on you. Let us know what shoes you're wearing." I replayed. The last part again. Let us know what shoes you're wearing, as if I were already standing there, smiling. As if none of it had happened. As if I hadn't been erased. That weekend, I took a bus to the edge of the city, a tiny thrift bookstore I used to visit before everything fell apart. It was the kind of place with uneven floors and dusty corners and handwritten signs for the poetry section. I walked the aisles slowly, running my fingers along spines. A woman at the counter was humming something familiar. Something old. I think it was a lullaby. I liked that no one here knew my name. I bought 3 books and a postcard. The postcard had a drawing of a lighthouse on it. Back at my apartment, I wrote on the back, "You forgot I existed until you needed me to perform. I'm not your background character anymore." I didn't sign it. I didn't even mail it. I tucked it into my journal. Let it sit in the drawer with the others. The group chat was still muted. I saw messages sometimes. Someone tagged me in a joke about bridesmaids and flower crowns. Someone else sent a spreadsheet about seating. They didn't notice I wasn't answering. Or maybe they did, and they just didn't care. I watched the calendar days pass. 2 weeks to the wedding, then 10 days, then 5. No one asked if I was okay. They just asked if I had my dress hemmed. The morning of the rehearsal dinner, I got another message. This time a private one, from my sister. "I know you're being quiet. I get it. But please don't ruin this. Just show up, say a few things, wear the dress. It would mean the world to Mom. Not to her, to Mom. As if my presence was a prop, something borrowed, something used." I didn't reply. I archived the chat. Then I turned off my phone and made myself a late breakfast. The silence felt heavier now, but it belonged to me. The wedding day came and went. I didn't go. No dramatic post, no announcement, no explanation. Just the steady silence of someone who finally realized they didn't owe anyone a performance. The night before, I slept with my phone on airplane mode. No buzzing, no late-night guilt texts, no calls from Mom layered in fake concern. The morning light came slow through the curtains. The city sounded far away. I made oatmeal and sat barefoot on the floor with my journal in my lap, writing things that only needed to be read by me. Didn't cry. I didn't even check the time. At one point, I opened the drawer and looked at the unopened wedding invitation one last time. Then I lit a candle, folded the RSVP card in half, and dropped it into the flame-safe bowl I used for incense. It burned fast, quiet, small, intentional. I watched it until the words turned to ash. Later that evening, I got a voicemail. Mom's voice, unusually tight. "You could have at least told us." We waited. "Your name was on the program. The photographer even had a whole setup ready." Then silence. Then a click. "No." "We missed you. No." "Are you okay? Just, you could have at least..." That's what it always was with them. Not grief, not apology, just inconvenience masked as concern. 2 days later, a picture popped up in my email. Someone had shared the wedding album link to all the guests. I guess I was still on the list. The first few photos were the usual. Rings, flowers, hairspray clouds and bridal suites. But then I saw it. A long table under string lights, soft blush linens, candles, and at the end of the row, a single empty chair. My place. Labeled, waiting. It hit me harder than I expected. They hadn't replaced me. They'd expected me to fold. They thought if they left room, I'd come crawling. Back to fill it. As if a name on a placard was the same as love. As if proximity could rewrite what they'd erased. I didn't respond to the photo link. I didn't heart it. I didn't forward it. But I printed that one picture, the chair, with my name, and taped it inside the back cover of my journal. I wrote beneath it in pencil, "Not every seat saved is worth returning to." It's been 3 months since the wedding. No one really checks in anymore. Mom sends occasional forwards, recipes I never asked for, discount codes to department stores I haven't stepped foot in since I left. No calls. No, "How are you?" Just the kind of small talk that avoids every truth between the spaces. I think that's what I was to them, a space filler, a steady presence, a default. And when I went quiet, they didn't know what to do with the silence, so they just filled it with themselves. I passed the old apartment last week. I didn't mean to. I was cutting through the neighborhood, on my way back from the post office. And there it was. Unit 5A, with new curtains, new paint on the door frame, a new doormat. The home is where love lives. One was gone. I stood across the street for a while. Not out of longing. Just curiosity. I imagined her inside. My sister, cooking in the kitchen where I used to eat alone. Laughing with the fiancé she almost didn't marry because she said she felt like no one really understood her. I thought about knocking. I didn't. That night, I got a letter, real paper, real envelope, from her. The handwriting was careful, slanted like she was trying to seem softer than she'd ever been. She wrote, "I've been thinking about you a lot. The wedding didn't feel right without you there. I know we hurt you. I know we never said sorry properly, but we didn't know what else to do. You were always the strong one. I guess I thought you'd be fine no matter what. Maybe I leaned on that too much. Maybe we all did. Then, the apartment doesn't feel like home. It's beautiful, but empty, like it still remembers you. And finally, I'd like to meet, if you ever want to. No pressure. Just let me know." Eli folded the letter slowly and placed it in the back of my journal. No anger, no joy, just a kind of calm, like the sound of a door closing in the distance. That weekend, I made tea and opened the windows. The air was cold. The city smelled like fireplaces again. I rearranged the studio, moved the chair near the window, stacked the books by color. I even bought a tiny plant. I named it something ridiculous and whispered to it when no one was around. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. Was just separate. And that was enough. There are some stories that don't need a dramatic ending. Just a quiet refusal. A soft, steady line drawn in the dirt. Not because I hated them, but because I finally loved myself enough to stay gone.